The Untold Story of Tom Hanks's Four Children, A Hidden Legacy. Tom Hanks. To millions, he isn't just an actor. He's a symbol of kindness, decency, and hope. He's the face we trust when he plays a heroic soldier, a castaway fighting for survival, or even a cowboy doll whose voice echoes through generations of childhoods. For over 4 decades, Hanks has been Hollywood's golden constant, the rare star who managed to remain beloved while others faded into controversy or excess. But behind the polished Hollywood image lies a much more complicated truth, one that isn't told on magazine covers or award shows. It's the story of his family, specifically his 4 children: Colin, Elizabeth, Chet, and Truman. 4 very different lives, bound together not just by blood, but by the enormous weight of having Tom Hanks as their father. Because what does it mean to grow up with a last name that everyone knows? A name that opens doors but also casts shadows? For Colin, it meant living in constant comparison to his father's brilliance. For Elizabeth, it meant searching for authenticity far away from the flashing cameras. For Chet, it meant battling demons of addiction and identity, all under the world's gaze. And for Truman, it meant quietly building a life behind the lens, even as Hollywood begged for him to step in front of it. Some found peace, some found pain, some found reinvention. Together they show us that even the children of America's most beloved actor are not immune to the struggles of identity, love, and redemption. And here's the mystery that keeps us watching. While the world sees Tom Hanks as America's dad, what kind of father was he behind closed doors? How did his choices, his marriages, his fame, and his flaws shape the 4 very different paths his children would take? Because when the spotlight shines so brightly on one man, what happens to the lives that unfold in his shadow? This is the untold story of Tom Hanks's 4 children. A deeper mystery. To the world, Tom Hanks has always seemed perfect, grounded, kind, faithful to his wife Rita Wilson for more than 3 decades. But even the perfect families of Hollywood hold chapters the public rarely sees. Because when your father is the most beloved actor in the world, do you follow in his footsteps? Do you run from them? Or do you quietly live a life where your last name is both a gift and a weight you can never put down? Each of Tom's children, Colin, Elizabeth, Chet, and Truman, has lived that question in very different ways, and their stories reveal sides of the Hanks family few people have ever stopped to imagine. Tom Hanks, the beloved everyman. Before we explore the lives of Tom Hanks's children, we have to first understand the man who raised them, because Tom's journey, from a shy, drifting boy to one of the most celebrated actors of all time, shaped not only Hollywood history, but also the lives of Colin, Elizabeth, Chet, and Truman. Thomas Jeffrey Hanks was born on July 9, 1956, in Concord, California. But unlike the idyllic small-town image Hollywood might conjure for him, Tom's childhood was fragmented. His parents divorced when he was only 5 years old, and the separation left scars that followed him for decades. His father, Amos, worked as a cook and moved the children constantly in search of work. Tom has said that by the time he reached high school, he had lived in more than 10 different homes, always being the new kid, always on the outside. That sense of instability made Tom resourceful, but also lonely. He described himself as a quiet boy who was never quite popular. He didn't have the charm of a class clown or the confidence of a natural leader. Instead, he found refuge in imagination. Theater became his sanctuary, a place where he could step out of his awkward skin and for a few hours become someone else. After attending Chabot College and later transferring to California State University, Sacramento, Tom began to pursue acting more seriously. He joined the Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival in Cleveland, performing for 3 seasons in classical plays. Those years weren't glamorous. He lived out of a suitcase, taking odd jobs to survive, but he was learning the craft that would one day make him a legend. In the late 1970s, Tom moved to New York City. There, he landed roles in small theater productions before breaking into television. His first notable role came in the sitcom Bosom Buddies, 1980 to 1982, where he played a man forced to dress as a woman to secure affordable housing. It was quirky, it was silly, and it gave Tom the chance to showcase his comedic timing. By the mid-1980s, Hollywood came calling. Films like Splash, 1984, and Big, 1988, transformed him into a household name. But what set Tom apart was not just his humor, it was his ability to inject humanity into every character. By the 1990s, he wasn't just another actor, he was the actor. Philadelphia, 1993, won him his first Oscar, Forrest Gump, 1994, his second. Then came Apollo 13, Saving Private Ryan, You've Got Mail, and countless others. Yet while the world saw a perfect man, Tom's personal life was still complicated. His first marriage to actress Samantha Lewis brought him two children, Colin in 1977 and Elizabeth in 1982. But fame, financial stress, and youth strained the marriage. By 1987, Tom and Samantha divorced. The split was painful, and Tom later admitted he felt like he had failed as a father during those years. He tried to balance blockbuster roles with fatherhood, but the demands of Hollywood often pulled him away. That same year, however, Tom remarried. On the set of Volunteers, he had met actress and singer Rita Wilson, and the two quickly became inseparable. With Rita, Tom found stability he had longed for since childhood. Together they built a home, and in time they welcomed two sons, Chet in 1990 and Truman in 1995. This blended family, two children from his first marriage and two from his second, would become the heart of Tom's life. But while he was celebrated by millions as America's dad, his children would discover that growing up in the house of a legend was anything but simple, because if Tom's career seemed like a fairy tale, his children's stories would prove far more complicated. Colin Hanks, the heir to the craft. Colin Hanks, born November 24th, 1977, is Tom Hanks's first child and, in many ways, the natural heir to his father's craft. But while being the son of one of Hollywood's most beloved actors might sound like a golden ticket, Colin quickly learned it came with its own unique set of challenges. Growing up, Colin lived a life that straddled two worlds. On one hand, he was just a kid trying to find his place in the shadow of a towering father. On the other, he was surrounded by the glitter of Hollywood. He visited sets, watched his dad transform into unforgettable characters, and absorbed the language of filmmaking like it was second nature. But that upbringing also came with pressure. Every audition, every role, every move he made would inevitably be compared to his father's work. And Tom Hanks wasn't just any actor. By the time Colin was old enough to start his own career, Tom was already a two-time Academy Award winner and one of the most respected names in the industry. Colin took his first real steps into acting in the late 1990s. His breakout role came on the hit sci-fi teen drama Roswell, 1999 to 2001, where he played Alex Whitman. It gave him visibility and his first taste of recognition in his own right. In 2002, he starred in Orange County opposite Jack Black, a comedy about an aspiring writer desperate to escape his suburban life. The film was modest in success, but significant for Colin. It was his first leading role, proof that he could carry a movie. But Colin's career path wasn't meteoric like his father's. Instead, it was steady, filled with both triumphs and setbacks. He appeared in supporting roles in big-budget films like Peter Jackson's King Kong, 2005, and built credibility with television audiences in shows like Dexter, where he played the chilling Travis Marshall in Season 6. His performance shocked audiences, showing that the boyish son of Tom Hanks could deliver menace and depth. Perhaps his most celebrated role came in Fargo, 2014, the FX anthology series inspired by the Coen brothers' film. As Officer Gus Grimley, Colin played a kind but conflicted cop caught in a web of murder and moral dilemmas. Critics praised his performance, calling it a career-defining moment that cemented him as more than just a Nepo baby. But Colin wasn't content to stay in front of the camera. In 2015, he directed All Things Must Pass, a documentary about the rise and fall of Tower Records. The project was a passion piece, a love letter to music culture, and it revealed another side of Colin, a storyteller who valued history, nostalgia, and the preservation of memory. The documentary won acclaim, and showed that Colin inherited not just his father's talent, but his curiosity for the human condition. Away from Hollywood, Colin's life is surprisingly ordinary. He married publicist Samantha Bryant in 2010, and together they have 2 daughters. Colin often shares glimpses of fatherhood on social media, joking about parenting mishaps and celebrating the quiet joys of family life. Friends describe him as grounded, humble, and dedicated, qualities he clearly inherited from Tom. Still, Colin has admitted that being Tom Hanks's son is both a blessing and a curse. "I'll always be compared to him," he once said, "but at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be Tom Hanks. I'm trying to be Colin Hanks." And in many ways, he has succeeded. While his father built a career on epic, generation-defining roles, Colin has carved out his own lane, smaller, quieter, but deeply respected. He may not be a household name like his father, but in the industry, he has earned something just as valuable: credibility. But if Colin represents the steady, measured heir to Tom's legacy, his sister Elizabeth represents something entirely different: a deliberate rejection of the Hollywood spotlight. Elizabeth Hanks, the quiet writer. Born in 1982, Elizabeth Hanks, or Liz as her family calls her, never seemed drawn to the spotlight. She had cameos in her father's films, Forrest Gump and That Thing You Do, but the allure of acting faded quickly. Instead, Elizabeth found solace in words. She studied at Vassar College and later pursued writing and editing. Over the years, her essays and articles have appeared in publications like the Huffington Post and Vanity Fair. Her voice is reflective, intimate, often exploring themes of family, identity, and the weight of loss. Loss came early for Elizabeth. In 2002, her mother, Samantha Lewis, passed away after a painful battle with bone cancer. Elizabeth was only 20 years old. The tragedy left her deeply scarred, but it also shaped her worldview. Much of her writing carries a quiet sadness, the kind that only comes from having lost too much, too soon. Unlike her brothers, Elizabeth avoids Hollywood's bright lights. She does not walk red carpets, rarely gives interviews, and prefers to keep her private life out of public scrutiny. In some ways, she is the polar opposite of her father. Not the everyman everyone knows, but the hidden soul few get to see. And perhaps that is her strength. Elizabeth has carved authenticity in her own way. She proves that not every child of a celebrity must inherit the spotlight. Some inherit silence, some inherit introspection, and in Elizabeth's case, that quiet path has made her the most mysterious of the Hanks children. But if Elizabeth turned inward, Tom's third child, Chet, turned outward, in ways both explosive and controversial. Chet Hanks, the rebel son. Chester Marlon Hanks, known to the world as Chet, was born in 1990 to Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson. From the beginning, Chet's life was filled with privilege, but also pressure. Being the child of 2 famous parents, he was always under watchful eyes. Unlike his siblings, Chet dove headfirst into the entertainment world. He pursued acting, landing roles in Shameless, Empire, and even a small part in Greyhound, a World War II film starring his father. But it was his music career that drew the most attention. Performing under the name Chet Hayes, he released rap tracks and tried to establish himself as a hip-hop artist. The reception was complicated. Critics mocked his music, accusing him of leaning too heavily on his father's fame. Public opinion grew harsher when Chet became known less for his work and more for his controversies. He battled substance abuse, had highly publicized outbursts, and even legal troubles. At one point, he admitted he was wildly out of control. Chet later revealed that growing up in his father's shadow created immense internal conflict. He described a childhood of toxic privilege, where money and fame were abundant, but pressure was suffocating. Unlike Colin or Elizabeth, Chet struggled to find balance. But his story doesn't end in tragedy. In 2016, he became a father to a daughter, Micaiah. Fatherhood, he says, changed everything. He entered rehab, embraced sobriety, and began speaking openly about recovery. Today, while still a controversial figure, Chet has reinvented himself as both an actor and a motivational voice, sharing hard-earned lessons about resilience. He remains the most polarizing of Tom Hanks' children, rebellious, raw, but undeniably human. And then there is the youngest, Truman. Truman Hanks, the behind-the-scenes artist. Born in 1995, Truman Theodore Hanks is Tom's youngest son and perhaps the most enigmatic of all. While his siblings pursued acting, writing, or music, Truman gravitated behind the camera. A graduate of Stanford University, he studied mathematics and film, later working as a cinematographer and crew member. He has contributed to major projects like Wrath of Man and Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. For Truman, the magic lies not in being the star, but in helping create the star's worlds. Still, Truman shares a unique bond with his father. In the 2022 film A Man Called Otto, Truman portrayed the younger version of his dad's character in flashback sequences. It was a small role, but deeply symbolic. The son literally stepping into the shoes of the father, if only for a moment. Outside of that rare appearance, Truman avoids fame. He doesn't seek interviews, rarely attends events, and lives a quiet life far from Hollywood's chaos. For him, authenticity is not found in attention, but in craft. The shared legacy. Together, Tom Hanks's children form a tapestry as complex as any story Hollywood has ever told. Colin, the steady heir who proved he could earn respect in his own right. Elizabeth, the quiet writer who walked away from fame to pursue authenticity. Chet, the rebel who fell, stumbled, and is still fighting his way back to redemption. And Truman, the youngest, who found meaning not in the spotlight, but in the quiet craft of creation. They remind us that even when your father is Tom Hanks, a man who seems larger than life, your journey is still human, fragile, and uncertain. Fame can open doors, but it cannot write your story for you. Each of Tom's children has had to pick up the pen and decide how to live, who to become, and what kind of legacy they want to leave behind. And maybe that's the lesson at the heart of this family's journey. That the world may know Tom Hanks as America's dad, but his children know him simply as Dad. And their stories, messy, beautiful, flawed, and real, prove that behind even the most beloved Hollywood legend lies a family searching for the same things we all are: love, identity, and purpose. If you've enjoyed uncovering the hidden side of Tom Hanks' family, there are so many more untold stories waiting. From Hollywood legends to music icons, their children carry legacies we rarely see. So don't stop here. Dive into our other Untold Story episodes and discover the lives lived just beyond the spotlight. Because behind every star there's a family, and behind every family there's a story.